We're going to have the topic today about the energy in Germany, about how you're saving energy costs, what's happening in the German property market, especially for tenants and landlords, and how will that affect you at the moment. At the moment, we're having very high costs for energy, not only in Germany, but of course as well in Germany. And Daniel, you are an advisor for energy certificates, and you're now very young. I think you're 32 years old, and your topic is energy since over 10 years.
Correct.
And maybe you just can have a couple of words about yourself.
Well, I'm an energy consultant. I'm electrical engineer. Currently, I live in Berlin, and since 2021. And before I lived in Essen, which is the western part of Germany. And,
Okay, so you have done quite a few energy consultants jobs already. Can you measure them a little bit? Do you know how many you've done so far in your career?
Over 200, 250.
Yes, in the past 3 years, right?
3 years, yeah.
Yeah. You are a licensed energy consultant, is this correct?
Yeah.
Yeah. So what are the advantages for a landlord or an owner to hire you?
Well, in the first step, it's possible to reduce your energy cost and to increase property value and to keep your tenants happy because the energy bill is much lower.
Yeah.
And you have in Germany it's highly subsidized, and our society is pushing property owners, landlords into bring your energy bill down.
Yeah. Okay. Just for you as an international investor in Germany, or maybe a tenant living in Berlin, we're going to now quantify a little bit the costs that you're going to face, especially for tenants who at the moment are paying most of the energy costs. And maybe you have a couple of figures for us, Daniel. Just work with a 50 square meter apartment, 2 people are living in there. What costs we have here at the moment, and how do you see the cost next year?
Well, at the moment, it's probably going to be 200 or 300 euros per month for the heating.
Okay.
And maybe it will increase 20 or 30%.
Okay.
And but in the near future, I think it will go down to 100 euros, 150 euros.
Yes. So the main reason why we have a problem with energy is because there is enough energy out there in the world. The main problem is we don't get it. I'm sure you're aware of the situation with Russia and the Ukrainian topic. So that's the main reason why we don't have gas here, which used to be quite cheap for the Germans at least. And you are forecasting 200 to 300 euros a month on energy costs at the moment. Most tenants, they have yearly contracts with energy providers, so the landlords do, and they pass on these costs to the tenants, but only a fraction of that is at the moment being covered by the prepayment of the tenants in the rental contract. So there is a big problem that we already can see that will hit the rental market for next year. So the average cost, I would say, is around 51 euro a square meter for energy. For a 50 square meter apartment, so let's say 50 euros. And next year, because the costs are at the moment 6 times higher than we had last year, for gas at least. So we're talking about 250 to 300 euros a month. So that's going to be much more, and the tenants have to repay that, of course, to you as a landlord. And you, as a landlord, we are facing the problem that you have to basically cover the costs against the energy provider because you are the contractual partner. And the tenant is your contractual partner, and they have to reimburse you. And a lot of tenants might not have the funds in place when they have to pay the full amount to you within a short period of time, I would say 2-3 weeks. So we're talking about 2,000 euros maybe, or even more, depending how large the apartment is, that the tenant has to come up with. And if the tenant doesn't have the funds in place, they might lose the apartment, and that might cause legal problems for the tenant. You have to hire a lawyer. It can get very nasty, of course. So that's, I think, the main topic, Daniel. So that's basically the big one. Then in terms of the forecast for end of this year, fall and winter, you're forecasting even higher costs at the moment. How do you see that within a year's or 2 years' time? I mean, the Germans are now working to getting energy elsewhere with different providers. What do you think that will have an effect on?
Well, we used to get our gas from Russia for 4 cents per kilowatt, and I think it's going up to 10 or 12 because we can't get the LNG fracking gas as cheap as the Russian gas. And right now we have to build the terminal capacity, and this is increasing costs significantly. And it's very expensive to get the gas from the US to Europe.
Yeah. So at the moment, just for you guys to be aware of, in January 2021, we had the average cost of gas was for around 4 cents, and now we're talking about 28 cents, which is today. And today it's the 16th of August 2022. So there are huge increase in costs. Also, the cost for electricity went up significantly. We are now on the top of 48 cents. So that's all coming together at the moment.
Oh.
So just coming back to solutions, Daniel. So we are forecasting in the shorter period a higher increase of cost of energy. And what can you do as a landlord? What do you suggest? What should be the first step?
Well, first step should be to reduce ventilation in the building. So to reduce leakage and to check windows, check your door if there's any ventilation, and then as a second step, check your heating, if it's working properly, if it's if there are any breaks, and check the isolation if there's any heat loss. That should be your second step.
Okay. When we talk about costs and subsidies, you just mentioned that earlier. What kind of costs what sort of cost we are talking about?
For the replacement of your heating.
Yes.
Approximately 50,000 euros for a single family home.
Okay. 15?
50.
50.
50, yeah.
So that would change the whole heating system?
Yeah.
Okay. What would be the new heating system?
I guess it would be a heat pump.
Okay.
Together with a solar system or maybe a battery.
Okay. So you would change from gas to electricity?
Yeah.
Okay. And the heat pump would be inside the building or next to the building? I remember heat pumps could be quite noisy.
That's true.
Yes.
Yeah. You should keep that in mind.
Yeah.
So you put one half outside.
Yeah.
And please be aware that your bedroom is not in direct sight, or probably your neighbor's bedroom, because that's going to be expensive. And you put it outside, and you put a water tank in the building, and your pumps will be inside of your building. Okay.
So we're talking about quite a significant investment if it's a single family home. When you own a multi-family home with a couple of apartments in there, what do you suggest in that scenario?
Well, you're not. It's not very smart to go to 100% electricity-based heat pump. So you would put your heat pump beside to your gas heating, and so it's possible to reduce your gas bill 3/4 maybe.
Okay.
And that's significant. And your investment in Berlin, it's going to be, I don't know, 100,000, 120,000 euros.
Okay. You also mentioned cheaper options to start with. So one of them is the insulation windows, maybe replacing windows, replacing the ventilation in the building and the leakage. What are the top 3 things you would suggest for every landlord to start with?
Well, talk to your tenants so that they adapt their personal heating style, maybe.
Yeah.
And so that they are aware. Second step could be to do some works on the hot water supply, so that you change your shower systems, maybe that there's a reduced flow of hot water, and that's a significant step to reduce it. And another one would be to check the heating system if it's working properly.
Okay. When we talk about costs, we just had 50,000 euros for a new heating system for a classical family house. When we talk about replacing windows or installation of the facade, do you have any figures in mind, ballpark figures people should be aware of?
For cost?
Yes.
So replacing windows, typically it's 500 euros per square meter. And to do the isolation, it's 120 euros per square meter, typically.
Okay. And when it comes to a multi-family house, this means that we have more square meter.
Yeah.
So that means we have higher costs, right?
Yeah.
Okay. In terms of the rental situation, are you, you have done that 250 times already in your career.
Yeah.
So you have done single houses, you have done multi-family homes. What's your experience on the rental situation?
Well, typically heating costs reduce, but not as much as hoped often.
Yeah.
But 20 or 30% are realistic.
Okay.
And another part is, as an investor or property owner, you are able to increase the rent a little bit to finance the works.
Okay.
And yeah.
How does it work with subsidies in Germany? There is a special bank in Germany?
Yeah, we have a special bank, KfW, which is on the loan side. And we have another program, it's the BAFA. And there you can get direct subsidies, which means you get a cash subsidy after it's finished. You get a cash.
Okay, so what kind of cash do I get?
It depends. It's between typically 20% up to 40% for a heat pump.
Okay. So the main reason of additional cost for heating is the insulation. I think that's a big part, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Then we have the windows, we have the pipes, we need insulation, and you just mentioned changing the way of heating is not the priority number one. You would start with the facade itself, the windows, maybe the roof, the cellar, to insulate that properly before you actually change the heating system.
Yeah.
Okay. And when basically your job as an energy consultant would be what you would start analyzing the property itself. How do you start? What do you do?
So the first place we visit the building, and we do all the measurements. We have a look at the construction, how are the walls, is there already an insulation or not, what kind of windows we have. So we do a whole assessment, and we calculate all the complete area of the building and all the parts. And after that, we analyze energy cost, and if we change the heating cost, what impact is it going to have? Okay.
And once you have changed or have analyzed the way of the current heating system and the insulation, you make some recommendations. So, and then what do you do after that if the landlord or the owner says, okay, let's change it?
So if the landlord says, okay, then we find a contractor, and we speak to the contractor. We do the project management. Say, okay, that's the way we do the planning, and after the contractor has done the work, we check the work if it's working correct, and then we say if it's okay, we can go to the government and say, okay, the work is done, and the subsidies will be paid.
Okay. How much do you charge? What's your fee?
It depends on the size of the building, and it's between 2 or up to 10 grand.
Okay. And how much is the government paying out of this?
It's up to 80%.
Okay. So you must be quite the sought after guy.
Yeah, it's huge workload.
Yeah, huge workload. How do people find you as an energy consultant?
There's an official government homepage, it's called Energieeffizienzexperten.de, and you will find it immediately if you Google it, search for it.
Okay, so this is a government-owned website, is it?
Yeah.
Okay, so the government-owned website, how do they work? They have postcodes, or how do they operate?
Yeah, they work with postcodes. So you type your postcode in, and then you will see how many energy consultants are in your area.
Okay.
And you can contact them.
Perfect. And they're all licensed, and they're entitled to ask for subsidies?
They are licensed, yeah.
Yes. Okay. So your background is more into economics, isn't it? You've done economics and engineering, both way?
Yeah, in the first place, I did electrical engineering.
Yeah.
And after that, I did economics.
Okay. And if I recall correctly, you've been working for a big German energy provider?
Yeah.
Yeah, so you did a lot of analysis, and you were checking the energy market in the future and making some forecasts. And the good thing is with your education that you're also giving landlords or property investors a future outlook. So you also look on the economic the benefits for investors and landlords both ways. Yeah,
that's a very important part.
Yes, maybe for you guys owning a Berlin property, some of you just own a normal apartment, which say most people do, and just very few of you as investors would own a single family home. That's not the typical asset class, but I'm sure some of you also own different multi-family homes, or maybe a fraction of it, have invested into some with a German partner, etc. And you might be shocked about listening to these costs. I mean, Daniel just said that it's around a couple of €100 per month per apartment. So if you have sitting tenants in your apartment or in a multifamily home, you do need to talk to them now. We as a management company, we actually do that on your behalf automatically. And we inform them to increase their upfront payments to make sure that they know they will not be hit next year. So that's step one. Step two is we always ask Daniel or one of his colleagues, if Daniel has some time for us, of course, to help us and you as a landlord, an investor, to analyze the property and see where we actually can save energy costs. Because the big thing, and that's so great with Daniel, is that you always have to make a decision if it's actually worth investing into new windows, a new facade, a new roof, a new cellar, or a new heating system, or if it's not worth it. Because yes, there are subsidies, and yes, there are things you can save. And please be aware of there's a change in law in Germany between the way the amount of the tenants, the amount of money the tenants have to pay for the gas, because the tenants do not, or the energy, the tenants don't have the power to change the heating system, to change the windows, or to change the facade. So partly you as a landlord will be made liable for these costs of energy. And yes, most of the costs of energy is due to the tenant because he's consuming the energy. But that still means you cannot actually increase the net rental income you're having on a property. And I think that will be a big change in the future when you look on old building and new builds, especially when it comes to the energy certificate, how much energy this building is consuming, how much rent the tenant can pay. I mean, if a tenant pays €500 rent a month and suddenly has to come up with 200 euros in addition, you cannot increase the rent at the same time because the tenants simply don't have the equity or the money, the rent to pay the rental income. So that's a big topic. So I think we should be aware of it, Daniel. So just quickly to a little bit analyze the future. So at the moment, it doesn't look great when we are talking about costs. And by end of the year, what's your forecast? What's happening?
I think it's going to be worse. And in next summer, it will change.
Next summer, okay.
Yeah.
Why next summer?
Because our economy needs to adapt.
Okay.
And we will adapt.
Yeah. Yes. So what's your future? What's your outlook in about 3 years' time, 5 years' time? What do you see there?
I think the property sector is going to reduce their impact on the environment and CO2 emissions, and I think it's going to be we will do well. It will work out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Why? Because we have no choice.
Yeah. And there are many smart people working on that.
Yeah. Yeah. I think let's be a little bit positive here. I think the Germans are not famous for inventing stuff at the moment. We are quite very slow when it comes to adapt to new situation scenarios, and now we are forced, to adaptation. And I think once we start doing it professionally, I think it will, be better in the future. Also, when it comes to other energy sources from other areas like the US, fracking and all these things they are talking about at the moment. There's a lot of stuff happening on the political sector as well. Yeah, so I hope we have covered all your questions. If you have further questions on the energy topic, you will also find, of course, Daniel's contact details on our homepage. It's blacklabel-properties.com. We can Google Daniel Burgis online, of course, as well. You'll find his website, his contact details. And if you have any further questions for us as a team here at Black Label, please do not hesitate to contact us. Thank you for watching tonight, 35th Berlin Real Estate Talk. Thank you, Daniel, for joining tonight.
Thank you, Achim.